Okay. All right. Hello, everyone. We are live back again this week with another episode of the School Snack Series here on the Kids Health Revolution Facebook page. This is basically Kids Health Revolution headquarters, and your kitchen is your headquarters for your revolution in your child's health as well, because this is the place where we can get into the kitchen and we can start making the foods, the meals, the snacks, all the good stuff that's going to lay that beautiful foundation for our children's health. Foods that are high in the nutrients, the vitamins and the minerals and the micronutrients that our little kiddos need so their bodies can thrive. So do ours, by the way. And also not high in the things that increase and promote inflammation in the body. So we don't have trans fats. All of the recipes are always grain-free, so they're very easy to digest. We're not using any kind of processed sugars. We're using as many natural ingredients as possible, and everything that we do on the show is 100% natural ingredients, natural sweeteners, things that you know are full of nutrients and are going to be doing the job of supporting your child's health rather than driving your child's health down by promoting inflammation in the body, right? We know that inflammation is that underlying root issue for almost all chronic health conditions, and so it is something that we really need to pay attention to for our kids, and it's super easy. You know what? The fact that inflammation is one of the biggest problems is actually, in a way, for me, really good news, because that means that I, as a parent, have a great deal of control over that inflammation. I can help my kid's body bring down that inflammation, dampen the fires of inflammation simply by coming back into the kitchen, by making these my headquarters and preparing foods that I know are going to support his body in decreasing inflammation. So today we're making a super yummy little recipe. It's a treat, probably more than a snack, but because it's quite nutrient dense, I feel pretty good about packing this into my son's lunch kit. I posted a picture of this recipe a little while ago, something that I just sort of made up on the fly because I had some blueberries that were kind of not so nice anymore, and so I threw them into some tarts, and I got quite a great response from it. So everybody's wanting to know, how do we do this? How do we make this recipe? So we're going to do that today. You guys are going to get the recipe for that. And of course, if you are one of those moms or dads, for that matter, who doesn't have enough time to hang out with me live on the video or watch the video, don't worry, you can still get all of the recipes that we do here on the School Snack Series by making sure that you join the Kids Health Revolution community. It's completely free. You just go over to the website, kidshealthrevolution.com, and just give me your email address, your name, your email address. That's all I need. And then every week you'll be able to download a copy of each of the recipes that we go through. And we've done, I think, 20 recipes or something so far. So you've got access to lots of good stuff, so you don't have to sit through the videos if you don't want to. But sometimes people like a little bit of a video tutorial. It helps to figure things out, especially if you're new to cooking with some of these alternative flours and alternative sweeteners. It can help to have a little bit of guidance. So this recipe today is 100% GAPS approved, so there are no flours or sweeteners or anything in this that you can't have if you're on the GAPS diet. The original one I made had arrowroot flour in it, and I had a lot of requests from my GAPS people in our private group saying, how do I make these GAPS approved? So I thought, let's just go ahead and do one that everybody in the GAPS community can have without having to try and alter the ingredients. So I've adapted the crust and done everything, so it is 100% GAPS applicable. It's also, of course, gluten-free, grain-free, processed sugar-free, and all of that sort of stuff. So let's just dive in. Let's talk about the crust first. And when we're making crusts with, in this case, it's coconut flour. You could try and use almond flour. I haven't done that because my little guy is actually nut-free at this time too. And if we're trying to send these to school, we do tend to need them to be nut-free, right? Because lots of times we can't send nuts to school. So if we have a base for our tarts that is nut-free, then that's even better. So we need to use lots of fat, and we also need a binder in this. So today we're using chia. So this is coconut flour. It's 1 cup of coconut flour, and then I have 3 tablespoons of chia here. And then I'm going to add in about 3 tablespoons of water into the chia seeds here. And that is just going to let the chia seeds soak up some of that water and kind of puff up. And when it puffs up, it acts as, it gets sort of this really sticky, gooey texture to it. And then it acts as a bit of a binder for us, like an egg would if we were using eggs in this, or if we were using a stickier flour, like a gluten type of flour. So coconut flour is very high in fiber, which makes it good for our gut bugs, but it is more easily digested fiber than you would find in, say, a garbanzo flour or something like that, because it doesn't have the degree of anti-nutrients that some of those other types of flours would have. Now, I'm doing this in a pie dish because I find I don't like to have to, I'm short, and when I get a bowl on my counter, you know, it's really hard for me to get in there, and I make crust with my hands. So I'm doing it in a pie pan, but you could do it in whatever you want. And when I find with coconut flour is it often has hard little balls in it. So I always make sure, you could sift it if you want to. I'm not all that patient with sifting, so I tend to just go through with my fork or my hands and make sure that I've gotten rid of those little balls, and we've got a pretty fine, nice little flour concoction. I think everybody can see that. And then of course we're going to add in a good pinch of good quality salt, so a sea salt or a Himalayan rock salt. And we want a little touch of honey in this, because it's not sweet, like a gluten type flour would have a bit of sweetness to it, or even if you're using almond flour or something like that would have a bit of sweetness to it. This doesn't have any, so I like to add about a teaspoon of honey, nice good quality wild or organic honey if you can get it, into your flour. Of course, this is to taste. You could add more or less if you wanted to. And if you have questions as we're going along here, if you see me do something or mention something that brings up a question for you, please feel free to type it in, and as long as I can see it, I'm happy to answer it for you. And if I can't see it right now as we're working away on the fly, I'm more than happy to come in and answer the questions for you afterwards. So the honey is in there, and then we've got about, well, not about, we have 3/4 of a cup of coconut oil here. Now, coconut oil is all I have at the moment because I'm out of ghee. I haven't made any lately. But I kind of like to make this with either straight up ghee or ghee coconut butter or coconut oil combined. I just like the flavor better. It's kind of got that nice buttery taste to it. But either way, you can use ghee, you can use coconut oil, you could use lard for that matter if you wanted to, any of those sort of natural fats. And so we're just going to put this in. I'm going to put most of it in here. I'm just kind of spreading it around the pan, the pie pan or pie plate here. And then we're just going to go in sort of, if you've ever made a traditional crust, pie crust, it's a really similar process. I used to have, when I was baking traditional things, one of those fancy sort of little wire brush things that you could use. I don't have one anymore. So I just go in and use a fork, and then I'm going to get in there with my hands. So basically what you want to do is just be breaking up those bits of oil and the bit of honey that we put in there. You could add a little bit of vanilla to this if you wanted to add a little bit of flavor. Little scrape out of a vanilla pod and put it in. That would be nice and tasty. I have put in some lemon zest into the crust, which is nice as well. So you've got good fat in here, which is helping to balance the blood sugar, the fact that we're making a little bit of a sweet treat. We've also got good fiber coming from the coconut. You've got butyrate in here if you're using ghee especially, and that's a favorite fuel of your intestinal cells. So if you're working on any sort of healing of the gut, butyrate from ghee is a really great source. And fat from coconut oil is a medium chain triglyceride, so that's actually a really good quick source of energy for your kids because it doesn't have to be broken down and digested in the same way. It can just go straight out and be used as energy. So now you can see I'm just getting in there with my fingers and just breaking up those bits, and kind of it sticks together, and I break it apart, making sure I'm getting all of the coconut flour worked in. So you get a little bit of a hand workout, and let me tell you, my hands are sore today. We went to the Rocky Mountain Rock Climbing Center today with my son. We're on spring break here, so we took a little break and went over there to the little climbing park for an hour. It was super fun. But holy cow, my hands hurt from gripping. They're not used to that kind of gripping all the time. I guess I need to do it more often. It was fun. And he's a good little climber. It was pretty fun to see. And I'm afraid of heights, so it wasn't the easiest thing for me to do. But I do find when I go with my child and I see him do something, I think, you know what? If he can do it, I can do it. And so it kind of pushes me further than my boundaries than I might normally go, and you know that's always a good thing, especially as we get older. So you can see we're coming together with a nice little ball of dough here. Just going to scrape up the last bits there and work it in. Okay, and so then I just sort of work it with my hands, making sure that there's no clumps of flour left. And it's a little bit sticky, but it's not bad. I do find that in terms of rolling it out, this flour is not so rollable. You can't roll it really thin. When I make it with a little bit of arrowroot powder, it's a little bit more elastic and less sticky. And so you can roll it out with the rolling pin and make your tarts that way. But it's not a big deal if you can't do it that way, because we're being 100% GAPS compliant here. We just use our fingers to press it down. So all I do here now that I have my dough is I basically rip it off, and I use a bit of the remaining oil just to get my hands nice and greased up so it's not sticking. And I just make, well, that one's maybe a little bit too large, probably about ping pong ball sized dough balls. And I go through and do that with all of my dough first before I start putting it into my little tins. I just find it easier to do it that way. So I go through and roll out all of those little balls. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to bore you and make you sit here and watch me roll all of those out. I'm going to set that to the side for the moment and bring over. So we have a cupcake tin here, or a muffin tin, and I use these parchment. You could try just greasing this up and putting the tart straight in. I'm always a little nervous it's going to stick, and as you can probably see, my muffin tins aren't in that great a shape. Plus, I do have aluminum muffin tins at this point, so I do like to use the parchment paper because it protects against the aluminum. So I just take those and line them all up, and then you take one of your little balls, and I just press it a little bit flat, and then put it into the little liner, and then press it out with your fingers. Now my fingers are pretty sticky because I haven't washed them off, but you just want to form it out. I don't know if everybody can see that. If I back it up a little bit, then this camera can get it. So you're just pressing it down so that you make a nice little cup, and you get a little indentation there where you can put in your filling. So it's pretty easy. This is probably the most labor intensive part of it. And if your kids are old enough, 10 probably up, maybe even a little younger, if they've been in the kitchen a bit, they can do this part, right? They can help you make the balls. They can be measuring out the balls while you're forming them into the muffin tin. So you can see there that I've just got them nice and pressed in there. So I'm not going to do them all in front of you right now, but you would do, it makes about 12. Usually I have a little bit of dough left over at the end of 12. And what I do with that is I just roll it out and make them into cookies. I might add a little extra honey to it and make it into just a little cookie, flatten them out and bake them at the same time. And my kiddo likes them just as plain little cookies. You know what I forgot to do, you guys? Oh my goodness gracious. I'd be curious as how this dough turns out, because you know what I didn't put in it? I put in the oil. I did not put the chia in it. So it'll be interesting. I'm gonna leave those ones and see if they come out. But this chia should have gone in there, so we're gonna put that in, and I might have to end up adding in a little bit of extra flour now because I've worked this around so much. Might be a bit too wet. I just looked at it and realized, wait a minute, there's no little black dots in that. What happened? What did I do? So the nice thing about putting the chia in, it's possible that that might work just by itself, and I'll let you know if those two do turn out by themselves. But what I also like about including the chia in it, in addition to being a little bit more of a binder in there and adding a bit of elasticity, is that it certainly adds in an extra little bit of nutrition into our tart, because chia seeds are so rich in omega fatty acids, right? Now, I let that sit for such a long time because I was chatting away. If we weren't letting it sit, it would have been, you know, a little bit more liquidy, and I wouldn't be having to kind of smush it around that way, but it's okay, it's working. And that's the beauty of this type of cooking, as opposed maybe to traditional baking, where I find the rules are a little more hard and fast, and if you make a mistake, you're kind of screwed, right? You gotta kind of throw it out and start all over. Whereas with this stuff, it's pretty flexible. You can just make it work. So we're just gonna work that in and make sure that we've got it as evenly distributed as possible. And you can see actually now that I've gotten that in there, even though it was moisture, it's just adding a little element of flexibility to my dough. And that's what we want. Got chatting away here. I completely forgot about it. I was all excited about telling you about my adventure to the Rocky Mountain Climbing Center, and I forgot about it. So anyway, here we go. So we've got omega fatty acid in there. It's also really good. Chia seeds are great. Now we're not going to get a lot of the fiber from the whole chia seed this way, but it is great if your kiddo has constipation, for example. The sort of mucilaginous properties of chia can really help with that. And so including it in our diet is a great way to simply help out with that, just making sure that they're getting enough water with it. So again, here I would take this, make my little ping pong sized ball, and then press it out into my pan here. Okay, and I kind of like the look of the seeds in there. I think it's kind of cute. It almost gives it a little bit of like a poppy seed sort of look to it. Just a different dimension and texture in there. Okay, so you just press it out, and there you go. You can kind of see that that one has the little black seeds in it as opposed to the other ones. So we'll see how those turn out. Now the other option, if that just is way too much work to be pressing all of those out, would be to just use your same pie pan that you have going here, grease it up with a little bit more of your ghee or lard or coconut oil, whatever it is that you're using, and then just press your dough out until you've got a nice even distribution throughout your pie pan, and you can make a berry pie instead of the tarts. So that would be an option for you to use as well. Okay, so again, I'm not going to go through that process. You get the idea of just sort of pressing it out. The beauty is, if you get little rips, you just form it back together and press it out until you get it all through the whole entire pan. Okay, you don't want your crust to be too thick, of course, because it's just like any other tart. You just want that nice little bit of pastry that contains the other stuff. Okay, so you can see there how that would come together into a nice sort of rustic pie crust. Super simple, just pressing it out. You get a little arm exercise while you're at it. So now let's talk about the filling. Now what did I do with the filling? I had it here, there it is. So I have gone ahead and made the filling up because it takes a little bit longer than I wanted to be taking with you here on the video. So we've got, in here, I've used frozen berries because I didn't have the fresh berries. When I first posted the picture that you guys loved, I had a whole bunch of berries in my fridge that You know when you go to Superstore or Costco or something and berries are on sale and you think, oh my God, look at that, that's a great price, and then you get them home and you realize why they were a great price. It's because they're kind of mushy and getting a little old and they're not so nice anymore. And my son's a bit picky about his berries. He likes them nice and firm and juicy. So I turned them into a tart, so we didn't have them going to waste. Now, I don't have the sort of yucky berries sitting around in my fridge at the moment, so I'm just using frozen. If you want to do it with fresh berries, in the recipe that you can download from the community pages, I'll have instructions on how to do it a little bit differently for the fresh berries than you do for the frozen. Anyway, we have 2.5 cups of frozen mixed berries in this. So this is blueberries, blackberries, and cherries. 2 tablespoons of honey. So that's all of the extra sweetener that's in this. Not very much. So you're not going to worry about a big sugar high, blood sugar spike, or anything like that from this recipe. If you have a child that's just transitioning out of like a SAD, standard American diet sort of thing, you might want to add a little extra sweetener to this just so that you know that it's gonna be palatable for them at first. I always recommend that. Make it a little sweeter at first and then back off on the sweetener as their palate adjusts. Okay? So we just kind of melt this down. You don't even have to bring it to a boil, like a bit of a simmer. Throw in your honey. We also are going to put in 2 teaspoons of fresh squeezed lemon juice. That's optional, but it does pop up the taste a little bit. So lemon juice can go in there. If you're on a very strict low histamine diet, by all means you can skip the lemon juice. A little pinch of sea salt, of course. And then we're using gelatin in this to bring this together so we can make it into the tarts. So this with the frozen berries has 2 tablespoons of gelatin in it. And the trick with the gelatin is you put it in a little bowl like this, 2 tablespoons of gelatin, 3 tablespoons of water, and mix it around so that you let your gelatin bloom. And then what I do is when this is nice and warm, I pour off some of the liquid from my berries, mix it into the gelatin so it gets all nice and melted in there, and then I put it in with my berries, okay? Otherwise, sometimes when you just plop it right in there, you get the gelatin ending up sort of sticking to your berries, and that's not really a texture that you want. So just mix it up in your bowl. All these instructions will be in the downloaded copy that you can get on the webpage, on the community webpage. So gelatin goes in there, and then you basically remove it from the heat and let it sit for, well, 10, 20 minutes or however long it takes until it's a little bit thickened. So it almost, if you can see that, looks like, hi Kenny, looks like kind of a jam sort of consistency. And then we're going to take our little tarts. Oh, I'm sorry. My goodness, you guys, what is going on with me today? That rock climbing just did me in and my brain is not working. You're going to bake these first. So your tarts are going to go into the oven and you're going to bake them at 325 for 10 minutes. And keep your eye on them, like set the timer for 5 minutes and check them because they burn super quick. So you're going to bake them first at 325 for probably a maximum of 10 minutes. And you're going to look for them coming out just a little bit brown like this and nice and crispy, and you can take them out of their little lining. Okay, so you want to do that, otherwise they do tend to be a little bit soggy if you go straight in. And then once you're done that, you can let them cool or not, doesn't really matter. These have cooled. And then you're just going to go through and spoon your lovely berry mixture. Now look at the color of this, because it's this kind of color that has all of the amazing antioxidants we need in our diet for that anti-inflammatory effect, right? The darker colored foods that you eat, eating the rainbow means that you're getting all of those incredible phytonutrients into your diet and into your child's diet. And berries are one of the best ways to do it. They're super tasty and super high in goodness. Lots of vitamin C in here, all kinds of good stuff. So you can just pile that in as much as you feel like you'd like to use. I like to pile it up pretty good. And then I would set these in the fridge for a little while longer and just let them kind of set up. And basically, when you're done, you have a nice little berry tart there. Your filling doesn't fall out. Excuse me. And it's yummy. Okay, nice filling there. Nice crunch to the crust. Really good stuff. So you can make 12. You could certainly batch prepare these and make a whole bunch to send to school for the week. Excuse me. I'm having a cough attack. I'm coming off the end of a cold, and it's mostly gone, but the cough gets me sometimes. So there you go, you guys. That is the mixed berry or blueberry tart, however you want to make it. Super nutrient dense, easy to make, and I know that your kids are going to love them. My kiddo loves these. Make sure that you join the community so that you can get a free copy of all of these recipes right into your inbox, or you can get it from our private Facebook group. We have a lovely group of parents over in our group, the private group. Lots of wonderful support from parents who have kids with chronic health challenges that are using dietary approaches to help their kids get better. So lots of questions and answers and support going on over there. If you're not already a member, please head over. It's Kids Health Revolution private group and join us. kidshealthrevolution.com. We've got lots of other resources there for you, 20 fabulous freezer meals, all kinds of good stuff. So I hope that you enjoyed today's recipe. If you like this video, please give it a little like. That helps me spread the word even better. Share it with people so that we can get the word out that cooking recipes that are nutrient dense and supportive of health is easy and simple and tastes great. And yes, our kids will eat it when we just get back in the kitchen and get back to basics. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you again next week for another episode of the Kids Health Revolution School Snack Series. Oh, hi Sarah. Looks yummy. Can't wait to try it. Awesome. Well, let me know how it goes. I'd love to see pictures of what you come up with. Okay, everybody, have a good rest of your Thursday, and we'll talk to you again next week. Take good care. Oh, I'm going to go over here first. Bye, guys.